Hi, Amy. Welcome back to the Revitalized Womanhood podcast, but a little different. You were on a Friday episode last time, and this time you're in the hot seat.
Woo!
Tuesday episode.
All right.
Not really. Not really, because now I think we know each other well enough to know
Yeah.
that you being in the hot seat with me is going to get some really good thought, like deep, is it thought-provoking conversation? Is that the right way of saying that?
Hope so. I hope it will be. That's my goal. That's our goal.
Oh, bless your heart. Okay, listeners, you've been along with us. We are still traveling. So, Wi Fi, whether or not we're going to have Wi Fi, is always up in the air. It's questionable. Getting other guests to record has been quite, we'll call it interesting. And so, Amy, bless your heart, out of the goodness of her sweetheart, I out of nowhere said, Amy, would you like to record? We have actually been planning to record this episode for a little while, but I just kind of pulled the trigger and put you on the spot. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Absolutely.
I will let you reintroduce yourself after I let everyone know that you were one of my very first members in the Revitalized Sisterhood 1 year ago. So Amy has been here doing the work, putting in the time for one whole year. And so I think it's really fun. Well, I think our episode, I think I saw it went out in April. So we'll call that kind of like a 6 month mark, right?
Yeah.
We'll kind of call
Yeah.
that a little bit of a 6 month mark. So now we're going to get your full year perspective on some things. So that's going to be great. So will you reintroduce yourself to my listeners?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Amy. I am 38. I'm a mother of 4, homeschooling mama. Um, my house is my work. My people are my work. And it's a busy life, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. That's it's my dream. It's my dream and I'm living it out to the best of my ability. Yeah. And I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy that I've been here for a year and I'm so excited to talk about what that's meant in my life.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And kind of the point of, I shouldn't say the point of this conversation, but I've talked to you about this and what my nudge has been honestly through the whole of the Revitalized Sisterhood has been this concept of women prioritizing themselves, prioritizing personal growth and development. A new concept is this community a pioneer almost? You know what I mean? Because I think about it in the way that when Ryan started the Iron Council and Order of Man 8 years ago, maybe almost 9. I'm trying to think when it was, and honestly, I think he was a pioneer. He and there were a couple different communities like his, but I really think those communities were pioneers in the way that I remember my husband talking about it and saying, like, what is Ryan even doing? What he's telling men how to be men? Like, who needs to be told how to be a man, right?
Right.
But Ryan couldn't foresee the world and what it is today and how degraded the masculine figure is, how they're trying to make it seem unimportant, and what makes me say how much more necessary it is now to really get the men out of into the spotlight that are these masculine men who are true men. So anyway,
Yes.
that being said, to bring it back around to women and our community, I think this is kind of working in the same way for us. I think there is something that we will need to be stronger for maybe in our lifetime. Is that a weird thing to say?
No.
And if we are not prepared, it's like, what are we trying to do with our kids? Rick and I have had this conversation a lot lately because our kids are very entitled and very spoiled and very, right? They have a lot of blessings that they take for granted. And, and, we see that as we're on the one hand, we're trying to give our kids a better life, right?
Yes.
On the other hand, we are making them weaker. We are not allowing them to struggle. We're not allowing them to grow. And I think that's why the whole homeschool mom and homeschool life is becoming such an amazing new direction for people to see, because before it wasn't always that way. But now
Right.
I think a lot of people are starting to appreciate that we need to be raising these kids in a way that they'll be able to take on a lot of things that they might come into contact with later on down the road.
Yes, I very much agree with you. And that hits on actually a very a soft place for me in particular. One of the things before the sisterhood ever existed for me, one of my closest friends and I would constantly talk about, we don't have any women in our lives showing us how to do this mom thing. We don't have these older women, like, where are they? Where are these women who've already done this and they're showing us these roles and showing us how to do this, and they're there for us to call on and ask questions of? Where are these women? And we kind of like made a pact with each other, like, we're going to be those women. That's going to be us. And I don't know how we're going to get there. We really didn't, because I think we are pioneers in this, because there was no community. Like, there was no, I didn't know anywhere to go hop on and talk to people. To find out women who were struggling through it side by side with me. It was like, you might find people at your church group, maybe. You might find people in your homeschool group, maybe. But a lot of the people that I was with were just muddling through with me, not people who could give me tools that I didn't already have. Um, so I really do believe that we are pioneers. I think that when there probably were times in history when families were more cohesive, and that multi-generational thing was more helpful. And I just don't see that as much now, for men or women. And I do believe that what we're doing here and what Ryan is doing in Order of Man is that missing link for our era, right?
So you look around this arena, and I will say for anybody that just cringed that we were at a bullfight, I am one of those people that will never go to another country and expect anyone to act a certain way as an American, to change their beliefs for me, to change their culture for me. I don't think that way. When I read reviews on stays, and you can tell it's been like an American or a Canadian or somebody, you know what I mean? You can tell it's somebody who's had modern conveniences, like reviewing a stay, and it infuriates me. It's like, don't travel. If you don't want to experience how other people live, if you don't want to see that this is set up in a way that they think is normal and beautiful for them, don't come. That's so for me, that's infuriating. Anyway, that being said, we went to the bullfight, and I looked around and thought, there is so much. Okay, so this arena is like 10,000 people, exactly what you see on Ferdinand the Bull, right? We just watched Ferdinand. So exactly what you see. A lot of that was like so perfect for us. We just were there. And 10,000 people hushed each other, silenced. It was so silent. You could hear the matador saying, Toro, Toro. You could hear him in this 10,000 people packed. I mean, packed. We were on top of each other. And people were dressed up. They looked very nice. And in a community where I know there is a lot of drinking and, celebrating and that kind of thing, nobody had anything. It just seemed very like, we are here to respect what's going on, this isn't a ball game. This isn't a football game. There's a time and a place for those kind of things. This is very respected and traditional. So we were talking about that in the sense that Rick says, I wonder if they come up with these new ways of doing it, like the matadors. Okay, so we just had this huge bike thing happening, a Red Bull thing happening in Southern Utah, and it's where they're on the dirt bikes and they do these huge tricks, right? And he says, when I started to do a backflip was just like, oh, right? And now they're doing 3 backflips. Like
Right.
it keeps getting progressively just harder, harder, harder. And he says, but look at these matadors. It's, yes, they each have their own flair. And yes, there are things they're doing a little differently, and not really. Like nobody grabbing the bull's horns, or nobody's trying to do tricks, right? It's a very traditional thing. So in that sense, this is all being passed down from all of these generations and respected. Whereas absolutely, I 100% agree with you that America, where I read a statistic where America is one of the only countries where women go and give birth and then are sent home by themselves to deal with it alone, to heal alone. Yep. I mean, really think about it. If your husband helps as much as he can, but what he has to go to work, you know, and if you're lucky, you have a little bit of community or family around to come and help you, but that's not the case. Honestly, I think the majority is you go home and you're just like, well, now what? Right. You know, thank goodness for the internet for things that's like, what is mastitis? Right. What is you know, oh my gosh, some of the things that I had with Locke happening, I'm like, I came in running one time, crying, scared to death, terrified after being in the bathroom after I had Locke, and just sobbing to Rick that I thought everything was coming out of me. All the organs I had. And he's like, you know, and I get to the doctor and they're like, you're gonna be okay. Right? But these are those moments where, and I have 2 other kids. Yeah. I have sisters who are nurses. I have a mother who's had 8 kids. Like, so for this concept for other women who have no one, suffer in silence, figure it out, I think that is the way that we're all sort of taught is the right way. Right. And suck it up. This is what it is. It's hard. It's mind-numbing work sometimes, but that's what it is. Right. And do it well, right? Rather than us saying, wait a minute. No. There's an easier way to do this, a better way to do this, a more manageable way to do this. And that's with tools and self-help and personal growth and a community of women that support you in doing it.
Well, and to speak directly to that, like, if we don't have this community that's using these same tools and these same things that we're learning, we've literally never seen anyone do it in front of us, right? Like, we've just never seen it. And so we might even come into addressing the idea of a community like this, like, oh, I can't do that. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I'll come in and I'm not ready. I'm not, whatever, all the I'm nots, all the I can'ts, because you've not seen it in front of you, you know? You've not watched people change and use tools to get through these life experiences. So, and I would just want to say to each one of those women, like, yes, that was me too. That was me. I felt like there's no way. How can I mean, I want it so badly. And I think most of us do. We want so badly to learn, like, what is that way? What is that way that we can grow and change? It seems impossible. It seems so hard. And it's like, I can't put another thing on my plate. Like, that is not realistic. And I'm here to tell you that was me. And I made the leap, and it's doable because it's one step at a time. It's 1%. And we hear this endlessly, like, we hear it around us, but we never see it. So the hearing it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. It was okay for you. It was doable for you. That's
or
you. That's
you don't get specific examples.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Like, what does 1% mean? Okay, right. You're all talking about do 1%, 1%. What does that even mean? Yeah. What does that even mean? So if you don't have people around you saying, well, this is what I think it means. Right. Well, this is how I'm putting it into my life. Well, this is how I'm interpreting it. And you're like, oh, no, yes. Like, different women, that's not going to work for me. That doesn't feel good. Yeah, you're right. I'm going to try it your way, right? You have all these different people that you can even relate to almost.
Yes, that's such a good point. That is such a good point, because we might scroll across those people on Instagram who have it all together and they're like, yeah, if you just do a little bit of this or a little bit of that. And you're like, yeah, but I can't. That's not it, man. It's not it for me. So yeah, you're right. I really love that. That's true, that conglomeration of our community bringing so many different ways to do it, to do the same thing. That's really
You
important.
touched on 3 things, and now I'm gonna let's see how good I can to remember the 3 things, because I have something on each of those things. So one of the thoughts just made me think of a question for you and in generalities, right?
Mhm.
Why does it take seeing someone else benefit for us to then believe, oh, I can do that? Or how many people benefiting? Like, why does it take 100 people before I'm like, oh, maybe that is true? Or, why is it is it a self-esteem thing? Is it a fear thing that makes us, I shouldn't say self-esteem, insecurities maybe, that makes us think, no, that's not me. No, I could never do that. Like you were saying.
Right. Well, I think that goes back to one of the things you were saying before, because our culture has said, stuff it, just do it this way, just deal with it. And so we have for so long been taught to betray ourselves and our own personal highest values for the lowest common denominator, right? Like everybody's doing it this way, so that must be the way to do it. So I'm just going to put myself and my ideas and my hopes and dreams on the back burner and do it that way because I guess it's tried and true. When really what we find is that everyone's underneath the surface going, that wasn't what I would have chosen.
No,
That
well, and
wasn't
looking
my
back,
picture.
in hindsight, you always hear, well, in hindsight, or Rosemary, our member that's 76, saying, oh my gosh, if I would have had these tools when I was your age. Oh my gosh, if I would have thought like this when I was your age, right?
Yes.
That just, so I found one of the ones, but that just got me on a whole nother thing. But I will come back to the one thing that you said, time will always be an issue. It will always be an issue because we fill up our time. We fill up our days. We fill up because it's like that one episode I did that was talking about being busy as a badge of honor.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I can't fit another thing. It's almost like we've trained ourselves to think that that's a good thing.
Right.
And when I hear it now, all I think to myself is, you just have poor time management. Mm-hmm. Like, let me dissect what you're doing and let me work out a better way for you doing that. I could probably find you a whole nother 3 hours in your day, right? Because that's where my brain's kind of clicked.
Right.
To see it now instead of what I used to do and still sometimes fall victim to is, oh my gosh, I had the busiest day, right? But
well, I want to speak to that real quick before you ask the next question, because because I used to say I'm really bad at time management, but you know what I really think it is? It's not necessarily time management. It's poorly understanding our values and priorities.
That's the thing under the thing.
Like everything's an emergency and everything's at the same level of importance in my life. And so I'm feeling like this pulled in 50 different directions because they're all of equal importance. No, they're not. You just haven't taken the time to sit down and work out which ones really are and which ones really aren't. Ooh, and we're almost not allowed to do that, right?
Yeah. Well, no, because it's selfish.
Right.
Why would it matter what I want when my kids need to do what they want and I want them to be the best and I want them to have the best and I need my husband to love me and respect me and appreciate me, so I need to do everything for him first. Right. That's so right. That is, yeah, absolutely. Deep. That was a good one. Because the next part of it is, if you don't carve out the time for what's important, so we'll say that on yours. So first of all, you have to figure out what your important looks like, right. What your values, because some days what's important looks like playing with your child on the floor. Yes. All day, all day. That is what's important. If you have a child that is just constantly, mom, 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 you hear there's a reel going around right now that's so funny, but it's this cute mom and she stops and the audio is mom, mom. And so the point is every time she hears a mom, she drops and does a push-up.
Yes.
And she's
Yes.
trying to make lunch and she literally cannot even get through making a sandwich without doing 30 push-ups first.
Yes.
And it's like that child obviously needs you. Like, let's really think about this as logical adults, reasoning
Right.
adults. That child probably just needs you to sit down with them and do a puzzle. Give
Right.
them attention that's not you running around the house doing laundry, running around cleaning toilets, running around running errands, right? It's
Right.
like, honey, you get home from work and I know I should have had a better dinner than grilled cheese, but the kids just needed me in a different way today, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yes.
that is where the time needs to go.
Yeah.
So I was just going to, so finish that with, if you don't fill your time with one thing, you're going to fill it with something else. We
Right.
all have the same amount of time. So like you said perfectly, it's prioritizing where your time is important to be spending.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. 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 Okay, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and get a little personal with you. More specific to you, because I know we talked about these things on your episode, but like we said, that was your 6-month episode. Now this is your 1-year episode.
Right.
But just a little refresher, because these are things that Rick and I have been talking about a lot as well. And he and I are actually going to record an episode 2. And it's really interesting because I see my own personal growth in doing this work that I've been doing with this community for the past year with you women. And seeing how it comes through in my marriage and in my life, but especially, like, I know you feeling this too, is in the communication I have with my husband. Like, and there's a lot of things that have been, it's interesting to say scary to bring up, because not in the scared, like, but really you brought it up. You showed me a codependent thing would be to just let it happen. Just, I don't want to even cause ripples. I don't even want to cause a fight. I don't want to even have a discussion that's going to be intense. So I'm just going to be a pleaser. Honestly, I'm just going to let it go and just not worry about it. Like, okay, does it matter that I'm trying to think of one that's been really funny traveling is if we book a small space, like when we're in, I wake up early and I have my coffee. Like, you know me, I love to do my coffee, my morning. That's my thing. And if we're in a place like this where everybody's sleeping, that's really hard to do. That's disturbing for a lot of people, especially my husband loves to sleep in when he can and doesn't want to be disturbed, right?
Right.
So the old me would have just slept in or stayed in bed, or,
Yes.
until everybody else was awake because I didn't want to disturb them. But the new and improved is, honey, listen, I understand that this is what you feel more comfortable with, but this is what I appreciate and helps me in my day. So we need to maybe start making sure that we book places that can give separation, right?
Yeah.
Or allow me to at least sleep near the kitchen while you're not, or
Right.
whatever. It's listen, we may have to spend more money, and that's, but this is a need for me, right?
Yes.
Normally
Yes.
that would be I just put up with it because what does it matter?
And
I
then
think
resentment
about,
builds.
yeah, and resentment builds. And he's
Mhm.
like, all of a sudden I blow
Yeah.
my post today on burnout.
Yeah.
Everybody considers burnout when you explode.
Mm-hmm.
That's not burnout. Burnout is, it could be happening 10 times throughout the day. You could be feeling burnout. But when you finally explode, that's called losing your,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's not burnout. You're so far past burnout. You've
Right.
lost it. You've lost
Right.
all sense of control. So each day is recognizing um that nudge, almost that feeling of uncomfortable or anxiety, or you feel it, ladies, you feel it when you I think this is the cue, like, right, anybody who's watching the YouTube, it's just that feeling where you have to like try to stop time for a minute And
Mm-hmm.
that is burnout.
Yeah.
Could have been 10 minutes into your day.
Yes.
Happen.
Yes.
Some of us shove it down better than others, but that just means the explosion's going to be worse.
That's exactly what that means, because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be masked as that time of the month.
Right.
Or, it's going to be pushed aside as mom's crazy, or she's got these. What did they used to say to women back in the olden days when they would have emotions was they were crazy. They would literally lock them up in a loony bin if they showed too much emotion.
Mm.
So that's what we're working with, ladies. Let's think about that. That's suppression, like next level.
A funny story that a friend told me about her mom that would be in that age group, right? Was that anytime that her mom would sit down in the chair in the kitchen and put her apron over her face, you knew, just don't. Like that mama is taking a moment.
It's the universal sign. My mom used to say it was she had a sliding door for her bathroom because it was like a bathroom suite, just a sliding door. And she says, I'd hold it shut, and all of a sudden these fingers would crawl under the door and just be like, and she'd just sit there like, ah, hiding in the bathroom.
Yes. Oh, I've had homework slid under my bathroom door.
I've had sword fights with a child on the toilet. I came in and got attacked. I think it's in one of the very first Moms Who Crush Mondays or something on Pure Imperfection, where it's like, yeah, boy mom life is being attacked by swords while you're trying to go to the bathroom or something.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so, okay, back to you. When or what was that moment? And this is kind of not a fair question for you per se, because your husband was already in the IC. So you kind of already had the concept of these kind of communities open to you, right? The concept of them. Whereas me, I remember Rick saying, when we talk about how do I communicate how amazing this is to women who don't know what this is, how do I even express? And he says, yeah, I don't know, because if I heard this, if you came to me a couple years ago, right, before he really knew anything about Ryan's, before he had looked into it, he says, I would have said, go get a library book, work on yourself, right? You know what I mean? Like, because that's how he learned too.
Right.
He learned everything about business through books, through reading, right? But he had like a couple mentors, but nothing like this. So for him, it was skewed as well. So for me to lead something like this, he's like, yeah, I don't know. So I have a follow-up question too, but both of them are a little different for you. But when was it in your life that made you think, I definitely need more structure in my personal growth journey, in my development journey?
It really does nail down to my husband being in the IC and me beginning to see the changes in him. For me, that is what solidified it. But I mean, from the beginning of being a mother, I always felt like, I don't know what I'm doing. Just every day, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just getting the next thing done. And I kind of knew that I had I had an awareness that I do not know how to get better than this, right? I just don't. And I don't know, self-help books. My husband I'm a reader, but self-help was not really the genre that I chose. But my husband was always a self-help reader, and he was always like, watching podcasts and stuff even before the IC. But I really didn't see, and I'll say this, I really didn't see a change for him. Even with all of those, right? Even with all of those books that he read and the podcasts he listened to, I didn't start to see change until he had accountability around him. I truly didn't. And once that started, that was when I knew that was what I needed. It was like, okay, he read all the self-help books, and maybe he felt internally that he had, done some work, or changed some things, or adjusted his thinking, but I wasn't seeing a lot from my perspective. So it wasn't until the accountability, and when he got that and I started to see those changes come down the pike daily, I was like, where's the women's version? Where? Tell me now. You know, so that's really the time that it really solidified for me, because I finally saw in my own sphere, there's a way forward. What
I
was the
love that.
second question?
No, no, no. Well, I haven't asked it yet. So the second
Oh,
question for that is, because also this is a generalities, because I know because of he was already in the community, and because he knew this was an important thing for you, and you guys, your conversation would have been much different than, say, two people who have no idea what the IC is or what Revitalized Sisterhood is. Okay, so
very.
husband and wife, but the wife, you could even say, like, because I would have had to have this conversation with Rick. I would have had to come to him and say, this is what I need. I feel these things. And he explains it. I said that to him. I said, what if I would have come to you? And I've called him out on that again, what he said last year when I started this. And he says, no, I don't truly think I would have said, go get a library book. He says, I was probably being facetious, but he says, but honestly, if you would have come to me with, this is what it is, like all the information, right? Like the solid information. This is what it gets. This is what it is. This is what it provides. These are the reviews, right? From women who have already been here doing this. This is what they're saying about it. He says, I would have thought about it differently, right? I would have been, but I wouldn't have had that conversation with him.
Right.
I would have never gone to him and said that I needed help because codependent relationship. I didn't want to rock the boat. I'm just going to sit here and be a good wife and be pleasing, even though, I mean, he's going to laugh when I say be pleasing, because we all know I'm a firecracker, but I choose when to rock that boat, right?
Right.
But also, I don't need things. Like, you don't want to show weakness. You don't want to show that you can't do everything. You don't want, like, my favorite example is women holding their pee. We hold it and hold it and hold it. I did it 2 days ago when we were driving. I did not want to bother my car full of boys who can just pee in bottle. I mean, really, to have to pull over before we needed to stop for lunch, right? Like, that's putting them out and inconveniencing them. Are you freaking kidding me? So I sit in discomfort, could be getting a kidney infection, could be getting a UTI, and these thoughts are going through my head, and I'm this, right? It's habits. It's habits that we've just been doing it for so long, but that's one of these concepts that it just kills me, that women are just too scared. So the question in all that is, because I know you two have been doing a lot of work in this.
Yeah.
What does a conversation look like? A good conversation of a woman who really thinks, I think this is something I need. Her husband.
Ooh, that's a great question. And I would really love to hear from someone whose husband wasn't in the IC and hear that answered sometime very distinctly. I really would love that. Whoever we can get to answer that. Because we have women who aren't in the IC, or whose husbands aren't in the IC. Ladies, you do not have to. It's not a prerequisite by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
This is not. But a lot of them did come from that background. But I would really love to hear that. So in the place we're in now, a conversation like that would look like, I mean, it's always going to, whenever you're trying to, share something in a partnership, you want to show how it's going to benefit both sides, right? You're not coming at it like, well, I just want this and I need it, so give it to me, right? We're not doing that. Nobody's behaving that way. So you're trying to share in the partnership, how will this benefit both of us? And knowing what we have now and the way we describe the sisterhood as accountability, as learning new tools, as not counseling, what's coaching, as being coached by a group of women from all different age groups, all different backgrounds, all different working homemakers, everything, all the different things. I just believe that if your partner wants what is best for you and for your relationship, you're going to get buy-in. Because when we're sharing what's really happening and the way we describe the community, like I just did, they will see a value. They will see a value because you see a value. And if they want that for you, if they want you to build into yourself, it'll happen. I think the thing that as women we're most afraid of is that our partner may not see us working on ourselves as valuable. I think that's a really big fear. And there may be things in our relationships that even suggest that to us. And that may be a thing that needs to be overcome, not within the partnership immediately, because you can't change how your partner feels, right? But if you start to do the inner work on how you feel about you, that's going to begin to change the conversation. So finding a way to come into the sisterhood for yourself, even if your partner, I mean, you can't, family money, you have to have those money discussions, and that's a difficult one. And I really have no qualifications to talk about that and how that might look for other people. But if you find the way, do it even if you don't feel like your partner believes in it yet. Come into the sisterhood and start to work on your own self and how you feel about you. And your partner will begin to see those changes and will be appreciative of them, I believe. Or scared by them. That's the other option. But either way, it's going to produce growth. And growth is what we're looking for. Growth is what life is about. That change and that maturing. We all need that. And it can produce good things no matter what way you look at it.
Yeah. I love that you said come in and start working on yourself, because actually you're not the only wife of a man that's been in the IC that I have heard these things from, that they came into this because they couldn't believe how amazing all of a sudden the changes were, like obvious changes from this kind of a community. Mm-hmm. And so that's interesting. And it goes both ways, right? So as long as you're willing to put the work in. And I think that's another topic that we're getting into, is finding out that this is not a community for everybody. Right. This is not something that is inclusive. Like, right. It is not something that's, if you're just looking for something to do on a Thursday night to meet some and gab, that's not what it's about. It's about, like we're talking about, being able to get past fear and discomfort and approach your spouse with these kinds of questions, or sit down and make goals and actually, what can I do to achieve these goals? And that's not going to work because I like to sit on the couch on Friday nights and watch TV. So I can't do, I don't want to read a book that's self-help. I'd rather read my other fun books, right? These are things that, we hear what we're saying. It may not be for you. It's not inclusive.
Right. I do want to say to that, though, the difference isn't your capability that you come in with. It's the choice you make when you're in here. You can come in here with, all kinds of struggles. And we have women of all different capabilities, right? Like, business building, entrepreneurs, women who've already done it. They've lived 76 years of life and she's already done it and she's still finding the reason to be here. We have women who have struggles in their personal lives, in their mental health. We have all different kinds. So it's not about your capability coming in. It's about, are you choosing to be here to do the work or not? That's it. It's the choice. It isn't what you think you're capable of, because you can grow from this no matter where your starting point is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that gets us back around to why I think this is a concept that's being pioneered, is because we've seen that, like when women got pushed so far to the submissive side that they just had it, right? And then they just swung the completely other side of it. And we're like, no, we are done. We are not doing this anymore. This Rick's like filming me. Sorry. Sorry, Amy. Rick's right here now. We are,
Film that she's in a
that
closet.
I'm in a little hidey hole
to the
here.
wrong closet.
You went to the other closet. Okay, well, I'll be out of the closet soon. So we have these women who are just like completely on the other end, just saying, we're done. Yeah. We're done with you all trying to society, you all, like not just men, but whatever. I mean, who else is there? But society saying, women, you have to do this. But no, really, I should say everything, because women were saying it too. Women were saying, if you're not this way, then you're not good, right? And so I think we had this huge... And so then I think it's balancing itself out. Now we're starting to say we prioritize family. We prioritize our children. We prioritize taking care of our homes. And I think that even went this way too far, because you still had the housewives that said, if you're not this kind of a housewife, though, you're not a real housewife, right? It's kind of been this constant, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So I think we're starting to kind of get this like level playing field between women, where you have, and it's kind of the joke, the crunchy mom, right? You have the crunchy mom and the homesteading mom, and you have all these different kinds of moms, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's so wonderful. You have the full-time working moms. You have full-time working women who aren't moms. But where I'm getting with that is I'm seeing that when you got away from these women who didn't want to be in the office anymore, who wanted to value home life and children and their husbands, that's when they started to fall into the trap of, my priorities are everybody else. My needs are not important. Because these stay-at-home moms were saying, you don't do that. You have to do this. I think we got sucked into that trap, and we are starting to come out of it and saying, wait a minute, no, I value different things than you. I value different things than my husband, and my needs are just as important. Right? And so this is uncomfortable. I'm going to say it again, it's breaking habits. It's breaking tradition. It's breaking the concepts we've been taught. I talked to Katerina in Italy, and for her, her mom broke that. Her mom was an example for her, that I am now going to be, that you are being for your kids, that I'm now being for my kids. So it's kind of happened here and there, but as a concept of community and paying for it and paying for enriching your life in a specific way of personal growth and development, it's how do I just think we just keep talking about it and keep sharing it and keep being the women that are on the front of it saying, come on, we'll show you an easier way to do this. We'll show you a better, not easier, more fulfilling way to do this. Yeah. And then hopefully the next generation will have it figured out even better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Man, you said something and I wanted to come back to it and I forgot it already. But yes, I think that's the only thing we can do is set an example and continue to have these conversations with our daughters, with our girlfriends, with our moms, and just share the vision. Okay. So I would say if I had a vision of what the sisterhood is to me, right? In its simplest terms, I would say it is an accountability group of women who's only holding you accountable to your own goals. There is no one way this looks. There is no one right way. Everybody has their own values, and within the sisterhood, I value your right to have a value as much as I value my own. And that's the ideal. Isn't that the ideal of human existence, where we all consider each other equal and we all consider each other as valuable as ourselves, and we support what that other person is doing. And when they aren't doing what they want to be doing for themselves, we rein them in. We call them back to what they hold true, what they've expressed to us as their need and desire. And that's what we're doing there every week in our squad calls. It's like, you stated that this was your desire, this was your goal, this is what you're going for. Where are you with that? If you're not where you want to be, come back. Look at it again. Look at it again and make a decision today to do it today, different than you did yesterday. And that's the only way that we're going to see that change.
Yeah, I've been having a very, very, I think you can see me start to cinch things in now that we've kind of started to get our footing, and because we were, talk about new thrown into the fire when we all started last October together, well, here we are, what are we gonna do? There's 3 of us, 4 of us, then there was 7 of us, then there was 12, right? And it's so, but now I'm starting to really just, is yearn the word? I don't know, but just, I want the results. And I am so fulfilled when I see them in you and other women in this community. I am so fulfilled, because that was, and it will always be to me, the hardest thing, because I can't control others. I can't. That's one of my hardest concepts, that I know that I can't drag everybody along, right? Okay. I can only shine for them to be an example, but I'm finally starting to see it in a way that is so fulfilling to me, because that's my biggest goal, is results. But that's a lot on you. That is, it's hard for me because I can't control it. I can't. Right. I can lay the foundation and motivate as well as I can.
Yes. And you do.
Closet.
Yep. Hey, but it's not about the place.
So what I'm saying is those first 30 days, those first 60 days, those first 90 days, those first 120 days, it's like, I think you and I both, we talked about this before, we both kind of had this aha moment at the same time. And it was 5 months in. It was not right from the get-go. It was, it took some time to really kind of shift and feel around what makes us uncomfortable, where we want to be, what does that woman look like that I'm actually trying to get to, and so if I could ask these women listening that maybe don't feel like anything's wrong, because they don't necessarily know what they're looking for, that's not right. I think they know something's wrong, but they don't necessarily know how to pinpoint it or how to fix it. Like you said, you were doing all these things, and we've had other women in here say that too, that they were doing the self-help books, they were doing the listening to podcasts, which I was too, before I started this, before Ryan came to me to do this, same thing. I was listening to these podcasts saying, do the 1%, like we talked about. And then I'm like, all right, well, okay, now let's go get a hamburger, or let's go. That was a great podcast. It was really inspiring. And then I'd break whatever habits or whatever goal I'd set, and it was like, nah, today's a waste. Let's try again tomorrow, whatever. But I don't know where I was going with that. Bring me back, Amy. Bring me back.
My goodness.
Bring me back.
I think I lost that track myself.
Here, maybe I know it's hard to keep up with me sometimes when my brain gets going. Here's one. How about, ladies, listen to this. Think about it this way, okay? Let's switch our brains to, we understand that our partners make time and prioritize figuring out tools, mentors, guidance. They are constantly figuring out, because that's what men are told to do. Honestly, I mean, you need to be a good leader. You need to be a good provider. You need to be, right. That's what men are. So this is a normal thing for them to do. Network, right? Network, meet these men, meet, what can he do for me? What can I bring for him? What can we do together? How can we team up? How can we, right? It's all about this for men. Okay. Our children, we are constantly putting them in sports, putting them in classes. They're in school, they're homeschooled, they're learning, they're, right? We want them to be molded into these amazing human beings, right? So women graduate from high school, maybe some college. And then does it just fall off the face of the earth for us? Why isn't it supported? Why isn't it a concept that we would continue our educations, that we would continue our growth, that we would continue progressing and growing as a human being, right? Because if you're not growing, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? What's that saying, right? Being stagnant is a form of going backwards.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. And the interesting thing that I would say is that I think there burns in the heart of every woman, whether she went to college and has a career or got married and had kids or whatever she's doing. I think there is a burning in our hearts to say there's something more. There is, I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to find it, and I don't know how to do it, and I don't even know what it is exactly. Like, I don't know how to label it. And so we feel a little bit lost, even in all the things that we're doing. We like have all these things that, job or kids or whatever, marriage, and we're doing all that we know to do. And why is there still that missing piece? What is that thing that keeps pulling us towards it, but we can't, it's nebulous, right? And so that for me is what this community really changed and made click for me. Because I felt that. And one of my squad members today, I asked some questions to them on our squad call, and she was like, yeah, I just lost myself. I didn't even know who I was anymore. I'm just a wife and I'm just a mom. And that's like it. And also a community leader, right? You said it. We're in all those service roles. But that doesn't mean we don't long for more, and we do, and we don't know what to do with it. And so that's why I want to encourage anyone listening to this. You don't need to know what it is. You don't come into the sisterhood with an idea, or maybe you do, but I think many of us don't come into the sisterhood with any kind of clear idea of what that thing is we're after, right? We just know there's something. And so we come in, and one of the very first things we do in the sisterhood is walk you through defining that. Walk you through asking those questions. The very first 4 weeks to a fresh start email that you will receive from Gina when you sign up on the website is guiding you through exactly that. What is that thing? We're asking ourselves those questions, and she gives you excellent detailed questions to ask yourself so that you don't have to be lost in this nebula anymore. You can start to define what that missing piece is, who you are, and it may not take you off on some trail, like, I thought once upon a time that I really needed to be a missionary or something, there's got to be something. And I came to realize the mission was my family. And for me, that's just me. That's Amy. It's not going to look the same for everybody, but it helped me to understand my values and priorities and where I needed to guide them, where I needed to focus them. And that's every single one of you will go through that process when you come into this sisterhood. And the 4 weeks to a fresh start it's still free on the website just to sign up for that. You can go do that today. Go do that today. You have no excuse. Don't stop yourself from doing that. Go to revitalizedwomanhood.com and sign up for 4 weeks to a fresh start. But then join us in the sisterhood and let us walk deeper with you to create your vision and to create your goal plan and to walk out what the 1% really looks like in accountability. Right. Yeah.
So good. Oh my heck. Oh yeah, there it is. Almost lost it. It came back. I actually did this, and I didn't mean to do this with Kelly the other day. She was kind of, she was kind of just spitballing things at me on Marco, and I'm hearing things, and like I do, I'm processing them through Gina's filter, right? And probably offering up something that's maybe totally different, but it's how I filtered it, right? And it came out kind of the same as this last newsletter I did about when we are redefining. That's a thing. You lose yourself, okay. But even if you don't necessarily lose yourself, you will change. You will
Right.
adapt. That's what we're talking about. That's growth. That's after I was not the same person before we lost everything.
Right.
I was not the same person before we traveled the world. I was not the same person before I started this community. I was not the same person before I had this last baby. I would never, right? Like, and so for women especially, we're not the same person.
Right.
We're constantly changing. So I actually was talking to Kelly about it as she and I were talking about we needed to go through our closets. Like, look at all this stuff we don't even wear anymore because that was a Gina, that was a Kelly in a different time. Those outfits signified a different Kelly.
Right.
And so for you ladies, if that's making any sense to you, like I used to dress up and go to the office, right? I used to wear different clothes. I used to, and now I'm like, what tennis shoes can I wear? What athletic wear can I wear, right? I dressed up for the bullfights. Oh my gosh. And of course, no one took a picture. Oh. But I was like perfectly dressed for the bullfights, right? And it was so unbelievably uncomfortable. Not the outfit. The outfit was great, but I had to constantly pick up my 2-year-old and have him crawling over me. And you know what I mean? Like, what a ridiculous outfit for a mom with a 2-year-old to be wearing. I couldn't even put a strap over my arm because these sleeves, I'll show you this outfit. It will come to life. These sleeves were just exactly what you think of in Spain, like the dance, those red dress
the
dance.
flamenco. Yeah.
The flamenco?
Flamenco,
Anyway, yeah. And I had these sleeves. And so I couldn't even put the strap of the bag that we were carrying with the diapers and stuff. I'm like, Castle, you need to carry this for mommy. I can't be touched, right?
Yep.
Like, that is a Gina of a different time. That is a Gina post. That is when all the kids are in school. That is when Rick and Gina get to go do things on her own without them. That's not a Gina of this time. So obviously my goals that I set in these different times are going to look different.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
But
yeah.
sit down and define it.
Yes. And that is where you truly begin to feel that question, you're answering your own questions. You're starting to be,
it stabilizes you.
Yes. You feel fulfilled. You feel focused. You can say to yourself at the end of the day, I did this day. I did it well. It wasn't perfect because it's never going to be perfect, but I did this day and I did it with purpose. And I did it knowing what I was going in to accomplish and accomplishing that to the best that I could. And it's even just having the goals and the plans. One of the benefits of it is knowing that you had a goal and you achieved it, just one in a day. And you can celebrate that at the end of the day. I just got that done. Instead of that endless list that's running in our heads that we get 10 of them done, but there's 30 more. So we really didn't do a great day, right? What a lie. Yeah.
I think it's a great day if I get my coffee. Mm-hmm. That's the bar I've started to set for myself, because if it's like I said about this. Okay, so I will do a reel on what I'm sitting in here and why Rick came in and filmed me, because I am basically Harry Potter right now. Harry Potter wishes he was me right now. I'm in like an attic space, crawl space type area, and I'm like, I could record a podcast in there. We're in Lisbon, Portugal. My whole entire family is in a studio apartment, and I need to get some work done. So I'm like, there's a little hidey hole here. Like, put some pillows in there. He had this great lamp. This works. This is perfect. And it's so funny because old Gina probably would have been like, well, this doesn't look right. This doesn't look okay. Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't look the way it should. This doesn't look like what a podcast should look like.
Right.
Like, what does a podcast look like? There's a bazillion podcasts. What does it look like? I mean, but in my head, I apparently have, well, I'm not in my office.
Right.
Right. But just doing it, I will tell you, ladies, just doing it and allowing myself the freedom to do it and get past the voices in my head was very freeing. And now the next time, like I told you, the next time I set up my studio doesn't need to be anything that I think it needs to be. It can be whatever, because the most important part of this is that this message is getting out, that these words are falling on ears that need them. Because what if I didn't put out this message? Who missed out, right? I once had someone tell me that's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, but it's not even that, but it's like, if I knew that someone missed this message that needed it because I was worrying about how it looked, I would be so mad at myself.
I think you just hit on like that kind of like summed up our whole conversation today, was because you defined what was valuable about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Instead of letting all the other voices and pressures and thoughts define you and define you, the terms of how you could fulfill this purpose. Instead, you defined the value, and that's what you're producing. That's what you're giving. And sisters, that's what you're going to find in the sisterhood, is that your value is valued by all. Like, you are not, you're going to lose that pressure, all of that extra pressure that you put on yourself, and that you're going to begin to discover that really wasn't something that you ever held valuable, ever. And you'll be free to be you in a supportive environment. Yeah.
Amen. Amy, you're the best. Did you have anything you else wanted to add, or did you feel like you got that was a good what we came in here? We did what we set out to do, and the internet held.
That was so awesome. This has been a wonderful conversation, because we both have the same heart of wanting women to receive this and wanting women to know that they can come into a place and be valued and supported. And yeah, we want to share what it looks like. And this is part of what it looks like, just having these really good conversations.
It's true, especially with Amy. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows if you're in a conversation with Amy, it's going to get deep, and you're going to have to dig it out of you, because she's not going to let you off the hook.
I'm a very nice person, I swear.
I do what needs to be done. That should be your motto. I do what needs to be done. All right, sister. I love you. Thank you for being here with me, and I really appreciate it. And talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.